Are you worried about eating too much protein on a ketogenic diet? I've had patients say that too. Let me show you what I think they should be worried about instead. If you're on a ketogenic diet, you know that we are shifting the fuels that you use. We want you to use the more efficient fuel of fat. Teaching this has been a little distracting to people, so I use the analogy of a campfire to show them, yes, we have 3 fuels in our body we can use: fat, protein, and carbs. And when I compare them to a campfire, people seem to get it. So in a campfire, if you were going to build it out of leaves or kindling or pine needles, we would use the same analogy as using only carbohydrates to fuel our human body. It is a quick, sparkly fire at the beginning, and then a fuel that doesn't last very long. Patients spend a lot of time putting carbs in every 2 hours to keep that fuel burning. When we add protein to the mix, it is a longer fuel and does last a bit longer, kind of like sticks in a campfire. But in fact, protein is a lousy fuel. We have to break down proteins into amino acids to use them, and they're mostly used to repair the body or to mend different parts or grow muscle. It's a terrible fuel because we have to keep putting it in every 4 hours, and it takes a lot of resources to extract that fuel from a protein. If you're looking for the best energy source, it is clearly when a campfire burns from logs. And that's what it's like for our human bodies to use fat as our fuel. It is the most sustainable, and it has the least amount of debris or maintenance needed. We don't have to put the log in very often. On a ketogenic diet, we can decrease the frequency that we eat, and that energy source stays stable and rewarding. So let's get back to that protein problem. All right, we've established that fat is the most sustainable fuel in our bodies. And most of us on the ketogenic diet have plenty of that in storage. So getting it out of the storage is related to insulin. And this is where that myth of too much protein is going to suppress your ability to burn fat as fuel. Well, I think there's more to the story. Take a look at this. When looking at how we extract that fuel from our fat, the hormone insulin is the one in charge. And the most powerful thing that locks up the fat cells is too much insulin. So when folks are asking me what's the most important place to focus when they're on the ketogenic diet, I first point out that how many total carbohydrates you're having is the most influential part of whether or not you're burning fat or not. 150, 100, or even 30 total carbohydrates in most insulin-resistant patients results in almost no fat burning. You must get those total carbohydrates to 20 or less in order to have a high fat burning phase. That is where stalls are broken, weight is lost, and medical problems are reversed when we lower the insulin to that amount. So on a ketogenic diet, we strive to have 75 to 80% of the food come from fat. When you keep those carbohydrates to 20 total or less, that puts you at 5% for carbohydrates. This leaves between 15 and 20% for protein. And when they're hitting this 20 total carbohydrates or less, I do not tell them to focus on protein. The one most important place to lower the overall insulin production isn't to cut out the protein further. It's to cut out everything. When you've reached that 20 total carbohydrates or less, keeping that percentage of food to less than 5%, the next best step is to stop eating for hours on end. That means taking an eating window and closing it to at least 8 hours. Most of my patients succeed at 6 to 4 hours of eating. That is, first calorie in the morning to last calorie in the day needs to fit in those hours. The next best step is to fast. That means only salt, water, or black coffee for a minimum of 36 hours once a week. Adding those to your ketogenic diet is where you will break a stall, not focusing on how much protein did you eat in the last 24 hours. It is that insulin production that really matters. And when people are on different amounts of protein, Indeed, their insulin response is different. It actually changes as you lose weight as well. So checking your insulin is something that can be very helpful. But I tell patients, skip the lab. If you want to know how your insulin is doing on a day-to-day basis, check out this next video for what I have patients measure and plot in order to know, is your insulin low enough to lose weight?